here! It's here! It finally came! I got it! Oh, it's so awesome! It finally got here!
What is it?
It's an Atari Pong pub table!
It's Pong.
Yeah, Pong! Pong, Pong doubles, quadra Pong, Pong sports. Pong sports alone is like a million games! Okay, more like 50, but that's still a bunch of games.
So it's just Pong.
Look, there's 4 more games. Tempest, Super Breakout, Warlords, Circus Atari. That's a whole lot of cool in one box.
Is that good? Why?
I am going to build this, and it's gonna be awesome. And you'll see how cool it's gonna be. So I got this for $250 from Best Buy, shipped free to the house. They price matched a company called RC Wiley. I've never heard of, but it's out of Utah. Pretty good company, but their shipping was going to be huge and Best Buy would match. The deal from RC Wiley popped up because I'm on a Facebook group called Arcade1up Deals and Discussions. If you haven't been there, go to it. As far as Facebook groups goes, it's great. There's not a lot of fighting, and what there does kind of get squashed, and it's just people sharing where they find the deals and talking about these arcade one-ups. So this is definitely a 1970s graphic situation going on here. You got the orange fading to yellow, the pitch black with basic Pong and fonts. The screen itself is nice and dark with the graphics all around. I personally grew up with this kind of stuff and I love it, but if you hate it, I get that. And this arrived in a small rectangular box. It's a assembly required situation. It's similar to an IKEA build with a few big pieces that you just have to put together, easily labeled. The screen and computer module are actually already together and just need to be set in place. And just like an IKEA build, there was an aha moment at the end where the power cord was at the bottom. If they had just let us know in the instructions earlier to set it a little higher, it would have avoided the tilting and reaching down and grabbing it. It's a minor little complaint. Actually, the only difficult part of putting this whole thing together was there's a rubber gasket that goes around here to be set in. The MDF particle board was a rough cut. You can tell it's a mass-produced type thing, and it just didn't have a lot of attention to detail on that. I took a cutter, went around the edges, and then took a flathead screwdriver and cleared out what I had cut. It made the rubber gasket go in a little bit easier, and then when there was just a little bit left over, I used that cutter to snip it, and it's set in perfectly in place. Once the whole thing was set up and in place, I did notice a couple little scuffs and minor imperfections of screens and a little bit of actual dirt in there. It's not that big a deal. My OCD was screaming. There is no way to remove this glass protector from the screen, so anything that's on that screen or that's in there, it's in there for good. So it's just something I have to live with. I do have to say that once the lights are off and the game room is going and this is being played, no one's noticed. I even forget it's there, so it's probably not that big a deal. It's just one of those things that in my head I'll always know it's there. The one major thing Arcade1up did that bugged me the most was huge stickers right here. They've got the serial number on one of them, they've got the government warnings that you have to put on the other, and the third was, hey, Arcade sold you this, congratulations. All three of them could have been put either the inside of the cabinet, they could have put on the underside. There's a bunch of different ways of doing it. Instead, it was a huge set of stickers right here, not the easy peel away kind either. About 5 minutes worth of Goo Gone and a plastic scraper got it all off. You can't even tell it was here, but it's just one of those things where I shouldn't have had to deal with it. I also made sure I took a picture of the sticker with my serial number and model number in case I need it for future reference, because now that sticker is completely gone. Quite a few Amazon and Best Buy reviews have talked about the awkward placement of the power cord. That's not as big a deal of an issue to me as the power cord itself. Check this out. It pops out right here with a little grommet. Not that big a deal. There's a connection right here. Again, not that big a deal. A little transformer knob. So now we're adding more and more things to it. You got about a 3-foot cord and then a transformer. And then you get 1 more foot of actual power cord. So now what do? This thing's designed to be pretty much in the middle of the room because it's 4-sided. I've seen other people put it up against the wall and that's great, but I would have just gotten a cocktail table for that. I did buy this off of Amazon. You may have noticed these from either your elementary school days, or maybe you have one in your office. It's great. I'm going to cut it to the exact length when I figure out exactly where I want this, so it'll cover up most of it. However, this transformer is not going to fit in there, and this actual little pieces, they will, or I can tuck them underneath the machine and then have it pop out. Arcade1up easily could have made this cord the long cord, and that way I could have ran the whole thing through. They could have put this transformer inside the box and just had the entire cord come out, or even the little connector that they do for all their machines so you can easily unplug and plug them. They kind of dropped the ball on this. What I'm going to end up having to do is secure this up against the wall, run this through, and then tuck the rest underneath. I'm going to be able to make it work. No one's going to step or trip over these, but it's a pretty big hassle that you shouldn't have to deal with. And while I'm down here, I wanted to point out, I have some pictures of some scuffs and marks. It almost looks like eraser marks that just won't come off on the actual black edge. Those are right here. You can't even see them on this close-up with the bright lights. It's only one of those right when you look at it and inspect it. So in the dark lights of an arcade or some in a room, they're not going to show up. The overall fit and finish of this product is great with only a couple minor things. One, the graphics on this Atari symbol on top. Because these are two pieces that come together, the graphic doesn't actually line up. And I've seen pictures online. I'm not the only one who had this problem. Arcade1up just didn't quite get this graphic right when they did it, and then they just went ahead and sold it that way. It's the two lines right here where the Atari symbol is split. They don't completely line up. My OCD is screaming over this, and there's not a lot you can do about it. Some people have suggested putting black electrical tape, which will cover up the seam, which is also nice, but you're going to have black electrical tape on top of your nice Pong table. Some people have talked about putting a little bit of touch-up paint, but that's not going to work either because this entire surface is an epoxy laminate. That paint's going to stick out. Speaking of the epoxy laminate, this is supposed to be spill resistant. It's supposed to keep the graphics on here for a long time. I'm not so sure how long it's going to last. I do like the feel of it. It is good. I'm not going to have anybody with drinks anywhere near this thing. However, it was sold as a pub table, and a lot of people are going to have just enough room to have this be their center table in their little arcade area or their game room. So you're going to have to expect people to want to put drinks on it. I wouldn't recommend it. The rubber gasket is going to keep this fine. I think, though, the liquid, if anything spills, not only are you worried about the graphics, the buttons, this crack right here, in between where you put the screens together, liquid's going to get down into MDF. If you've ever seen an MDF particle board with any bit of liquid on it, it expands, it gets nasty, it splitters, and it looks like crap. And there's never any coming back from it. Once that starts, the whole thing's just going to be totally craptastic. Now the next little problem I have is with all Arcade1ups. If you saw the Defender video, you'll know they use big holes. They put silver screws in them to hold this whole thing together. Great, that's probably what helps keep costs down. Although silver screws look like crap unless your game is silver. In the Defender cap, it was black, so I used black screws. I think it looks fine. These are not going to work because there's white holes and black holes. And on the top of this, you do not want to have a hole with a screw in it, no matter what the color. My solution is a company called Retro 530. For $8, they have a kit specific to this game for 26 covers for the 26 holes. They even are color coordinated, the number of white ones and the number of black ones. In a couple last shots where the black side is, they're already on there. You really can't even tell. These, you're not quite so lucky. They do stick up a little bit. Also, I have a blacklight game room. This is the Arcade1up pub table. Blacklight reflective, looks really good. The little covers that they sent, they're not. They kind of got this purplish pink look and they stand out. Right now it's about as best as I can come up with, but I am going to look for a different solution. Also, they do overlap a little bit on that Atari symbol. It looks like that thing's just a pain all around. So we've talked about this laminate, we've talked about the little buttons, which brings me overall to another point that most people are going crazy over on the reviews of this table. Apparently in the original ads, there was a plexiglass or a glass cover that was shown in the ad. And people were outraged that that's no longer the case. I get the pricing was going to be a little difficult. Also, if you drilled holes around for this, liquid's going to get down in there anyway. If you drilled the holes close and set these down in, it could work. However, if you ever spilled something, unless you put a grommet on each and every one of these, it's still going to get in there. That's not the best solution either. So I guess I can understand it. I can't put a glass surface on top of this if I wanted to because of these little covers, so that's not going to work. Also, another thick piece of glass over this thick piece of glass on top of the screen's glass, I'm worried it's going to give a little bit of distortion, and it's just not going to work either. Also, some of these buttons don't stick up far enough to add another piece of any kind of thickness to it. And here's where Arcade1up always shines, and I'm a big fan of simplicity of menus. You have 8 different games, you move around, you pick the one that you want to play at any given time, and it's easily accessible. If you hit the right side button, it brings up a screen with options. Sensitivity, which is great because each game you can change the sensitivity for the paddle controllers. Pong is not going to have the same sensitivity as Warlords or Tempest. Each one's a little different. This lets you adjust it on the software side of things, which is really great. If you hit the left side button, it brings you to the game. Again, Arcade1up shines in the fact that they go ahead and put what controls do what for each game before you start to play it. It's just really nice. Hold down the 1 and the 2 button for a few seconds, but what seems like about an hour when you're recording video, and it brings you back to the main menu. So a couple things about the game selections on here. Circus Atari and Pong Sports are actually Atari 2600 cartridge version. Pong Sports is actually Video Olympics, and it's one of the greatest cartridges out there. Over 50 separate games. They figured out a way to use Pong to do volleyball, soccer, hockey. It's really good. It's one of the ones that gets played the most when you have 4 people. The one that does get played the most when you have 4 people, Warlords. If you've ever played this game either on the Atari 2600 or in the arcade, it is a blast. Warlords is one of those games that everybody plays, everybody loves. As a matter of fact, this Pong table is something that everybody plays and they love. They see it, they see the graphics, they spot the 1970s look, a little bit of curiosity, they start to play it, and no one's really walked away from this table to go to another game to play. I really like the way this feels in the arcade, I like the way it looks in the arcade, and more importantly, people play it in the arcade.